Welcome to A Moment of Xen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Xen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, politics, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Xen Sams.
Welcome to the show, my sexy people. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 7 to 8 p.m. or go to 710WOR.com to watch fully uploaded episodes. Please make sure to follow me on social media at Xen Sams. That's Xen with an X. And you can text the word collaboration or feature me to 917-575-2321. Again, that number is 917-575-2321. Today's show is brought to you by Romulus Entertainment, BJ Cucina, and Helen Yarmack International. First of all, I have to thank my optometrists, Dr. Cassell and Dr. Klibanoff, and of course, the amazing Sandy at Studio Optics in Rockefeller Center in Midtown Manhattan. My eyes have been bugging out lately, blurry vision, and lots of dryness due to my overuse of the computer, and I guess lots of dryness in my home. During my last visit, I've realized that I've been going to them for a decade. They are amazing, and like every other business in New York City, they need a boost. So if ever you're in town and need a great eye doctor with the coolest frame selection, head to Studio Optics in Rockefeller Center. Thank you to Brian D'Antoni, my producer, who makes all the magic happen remotely, might I add. And on today's show, we have some incredible guests. Former Miss Florida 2016 and political commentator Karyn Turk from Florida's very own WJLO iHeartRadio joins us. And on the Politics of Hip Hop segment, we'll be chopping it up with my girl and segment co-host Jineea Butler, aka Fly Girl Lady J, who is a proud Republican, head of the Hip Hop Union, and mentored by Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Jineea has been leading the charge for the hip hop community to get involved in politics. She's going to be coming on with her friend Grandmaster Melle, and we'll be talking hip hop, politics, and how it should all flow together. We also have the City of Lies crew. City of Lies is a movie based on the biggest cold case murder of the notorious B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur. Still, after two decades, they remain unsolved. Director of City of Lies, Brad Furman, is best known for The Lincoln Lawyer, Runner, and The Infiltrator. He's going to be joining us with one of the film's executive producers, Danny Sikorski. But coming up next, we have Peter Guimaras. Peter is the owner of BJ Cucina in New York City and West Palm Beach. He is also a single dad raising a teenager in the city and has entered the race as an independent for NYC's mayoral candidacy. He's an all-around great guy who is also a very dear friend of mine. We'll be right back with Peter Guimaras after this.
One of the world's most recognized fashion designers is Helen Yarmack. She turned a small clothing line to an international fashion brand and is one of the few independent luxury fashion houses in the industry. Her designs for men and women are timeless and they outlast changing trends, yet they stay adaptable to your individual style. Helen's goal for her clients is to express their individual uniqueness and beauty. To learn more about her offerings, visit HelenYarmack.com or to schedule an appointment, call 212-245-0777.
Welcome back. You're listening to A Moment of Xen. I am your host, Xen Sams, right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. Joining us now, we have Peter Guimaras, single dad to the beautiful teenage girl, Michaela, Mr. Home Builder himself, restaurateur, entrepreneur, owner of Tipsy Girl Wines, joining us right now, and hopefully New York City's next mayor. Welcome, my friend.
Well, thank you for having us. And I love the sound of the next mayor. We need to do something with the city. We need to fix it, and I'm just the right guy to do it.
Peter, why don't you tell the audience where you stand with bringing New York City back and what you think the biggest issues are from a small business owner's perspective?
Well, living in the city, and you're a city resident also, you know that the most important thing is to have our streets safe. That's number one step, right? Because without the streets safe, people aren't going to feel like they want to come into Manhattan. People aren't going to feel like they want to go to the restaurants, to Broadway, to the shops. They don't feel safe. I myself don't even let my daughter cross the street to come to my restaurant, which we live in the neighborhood. So my first priority is to bring down the crime, get rid of it, and stop all this madness that's happening. That's priority number one. Priority number two is you got to clean up the city. Who wants to be surrounded by all the garbage and all the distractions between the homeless and the crime? So we need to take care of the garbage because it's unsightly. You know, you go to France, you go to Italy, you don't see garbage all over the place. And the reason it's all over the place is because, you know, our wonderful current mayor reduced the city budget for sanitation by quite a lot. So, you know, for every cause, there's a reaction. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to get people back. I mean, people are leaving by the groves. You know, it's a catch-22 for me. They're leaving by the groves to Miami and Palm Beach, where we also have restaurants. So our restaurants out there are flourishing, but here in New York City, we're dying. And, you know, if I have to have one city die, it's going to be Palm Beach. It's going to be Miami. It's not going to be New York because New York is the best city in the world. I grew up here, and it's my first priority. So those are my three major concerns: the homeless, the cleanliness, and the crime. Those we can right away.
That's great. Now, listen, I'm a mom to a 5-year-old little girl, and I'm all about backing the blue. I'm all about law and order and authority. I'm a registered Republican and very proud to say so. I thought there was a lot of issues with, and still are current issues with the Republican Party, and I think we need a revamp and an overhaul. What party are you associated to?
Well, you know, I'm associated with Republican. I started out running as a Republican, but as I got involved more into the politics in the city, I could not take it anymore, and I had to switch to independent. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Republican Party nationally, but here in New York City, we have a serious major problem with the Republican Party. And the reason is they never have a fighting chance against the Democrats. We have 2 Republicans running for mayor, and, you know, there's 28 Democrats. So the Republican Party doesn't back the right candidates because they don't want to spend money. They don't want to spend money on primary. They don't want to spend money on ads if they know they're going to lose. So they basically don't even try. And you can tell by the candidates that they back. So I switched to independence then.
A lot of people probably are echoing your sentiment right there. Switching to independent sounds just about fitting given the condition of things in New York City and the poor leadership. I am appalled and I am disgusted, to say the least. But more importantly, I'm looking to a brighter future because just like you, I am a city girl and I've been in the city for as long as I could remember, and I want my city back. What do you plan on doing to incentivize schools and these horrible massive teacher unions that are literally controlling our kids from not being able to go back there? We have poor leadership, strong teacher unions. I want my daughter back in school in September. The tri-state area is suffering. What are you going to do about that?
Well, you know, here's the thing, right? As much as I love the city, the fact of the matter is that anytime the city really gets involved in something that they shouldn't, it goes to chaos. For example, when Bloomberg was in office he's the only mayor that ran for 3 terms because he switched the law where he was able to run to a 3rd term through city council. And back when he was mayor, it used to be run by a private organization, the school systems. When de Blasio stepped in, he ends up having the school systems being taken over by the city. First thing we need to do is we need to get the school system out of the city hands. We need to bring in a privatization company that's an expert in dealing with the school systems and the dilemmas and making it a better school system for the future. So that's step 1 for me.
Got it. Now that's a great plan. I want my daughter has been in private school her entire life because I have not relied on the public school system, and she's only 5, and I'm done relying on calling the school literally every 3 weeks and saying, are you opening full-time in September? Which is now she's switching to a to a public school. And so for me, it's giving me a lot of anxiety because I can't plan my September, my October, my November, and a lot of parents are feeling the same. Moms are feeling overwhelmed, and the city needs to reopen. Things need to get back to normal. The vaccine has rolled out. These excuses have to stop. Lastly, Peter, tell me, as a single dad, your priority, just like my priority, is our daughter. That is everything to you. She is your world. She is your sunshine, and you look to her almost for how can I make the city better so she can have a better place to live in. What do you plan on doing very quickly for the youth and community programs that are going to get a lot of the kids back into great programs and off the streets?
Well, you know, it's a great question, and I totally agree with you, right? Our babies are our most important thing in our world. And, it's got to be really frustrating, right? If you're a single parent, or even if you're a multi-parent family and your kids are home from school, it's frustrating, right? There's no programs to take care of them. There's no after school specials. There's nobody home to fix them lunch. Well, usually they would get lunch in school. So we need to stop the madness. We already know about the COVID. We already know about its restrictions. We already know about the dangers. We need to get the teachers back in school, and we need to have our kids back in school. And as a mayor, the budget needs to be set correctly. We need to stop programs that are not being utilized properly, and we need to funnel the money to the most important resource that we have, which is our kids. We need to fund after school specials. We need to fund the recreational specials. We need to have summer camps for our kids. We need to start spending more money on our school systems and on our extracurricular activities for the most important resource we have, which is, our babies. And there's many parents in New York City, and I know they all feel the same way that you and I do about our kids.
Wow, what a great answer. I can't wait for my ballot to be cast, because that is very convincing. So you guys are listening to Peter Guimaras. He is not only a small business owner and an amazing person, a dear friend, but he's also running for mayor of New York City. And what an incredible candidacy that will be. I can't wait for Peter's numbers to come in, because I have so many of my listeners asking, who is this guy? There's people texting me right now on the collaboration number. You guys should check him out. Go to peterg4nyc.com. And I want to thank Peter for coming on the show. Peter, thank you so much. And thank you to Biche Cucina for being an official sponsor of the Moment of Xen.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you, everybody.
We'll be right back.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Biche Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Biche specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Biche Cucina, 212-757-2600, or online at bichecucina.com.
Welcome back to A Moment of Xen. I'm your host, Xen Sams, on 710 WOR. Joining us now, we have former Miss Florida. She's an outspoken activist and a political commentator. Her name is Karyn Turk. She's the host of the weekly show Behind the Headlines, airing on our very own iHeartRadio. You could listen to her live behind the scenes at 3 p.m. on Saturday on WJNO, which is the 1290 AM station. Now, Karyn, welcome to the show. I'm so excited that you're here. We've met in the past. We've worked together. I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad to be here getting my moment of Zen today.
Aren't we all? So I'm going to just dive right into it. Teachers are vaxxed. The science is clear. Stop abusing our children and open the schools. Okay, so you're in Florida. I'm in New York. And those of us unlucky enough to live in places with powerful teachers unions, and more importantly, weak leadership, have heard excuse after excuse how it's just not possible to open the schools. So stop lying to parents and dangling promises. I say just open. What's going on over there in your neck of the woods in Florida?
Yeah, well, in Florida, we're really fortunate to have an amazing governor, Governor DeSantis, that, doesn't take the crap that's being spewed. He just refuses to give in to the pressure of these, Democrat, agenda to keep us all suppressed and locked up. And he stood up, since the beginning of this whole thing and really kept our state relatively open. We were closed for a few months. We had our hurdles, our schools were closed. But, DeSantis did a really good job of standing up and making sure that our schools were reopened and that our kids had a sense of normalcy. But remember, I'm also down here in Florida where we don't have these powerful unions that control places like the Northeast and other parts of our country. And, it makes us a little more free down here in Florida. Our kids went back months ago, but I actually chose to keep my 14-year-old in homeschool. Part of the reason why I made that choice is, my fear that he's going to go back into public school and be really brainwashed by this elitist leftist agenda that I don't agree with. And I would prefer for him to get his education in an environment where he can see the sides of everything and make his own informed decisions.
Well, good for you, Karyn. I have a 5-year-old. She's 5. She goes to private school here in in New Jersey, and we've been fortunate that she's been in school. But the problem was that the Center for Disease Control suggested 6 feet of space between kids in the classroom, and New York City simply didn't have that space. I'm fortunate to be in New Jersey, so it's a little bit different here. But the CDC guidelines are just that. They're guidelines. They're not laws. School districts across the country made the decision to disregard that guideline to make sure their students had full-time school, like in Florida, and districts that didn't disregard the guideline continued to treat school as an option. And school is not optional, and that's the problem. So for reference, CDC also suggests that you eat your ground meat well done and your steak cooked no less than medium. So there you have it.
There you have it. And, my stepkids, who are younger, they're, closer to your own daughter's age. They went back to school a few months ago. And one of the things that really bothered me is that, these kids aren't even getting the social interaction with their friends when they're in school. And they've come back to my husband and I and made comments about being reprimanded. I mean, God forbid your mask falls off your nose. I mean, we're talking about, kids that are in elementary school, your mask falls off your nose and, you could get sent down to the principal's office or reprimanded by the teacher. I mean, it's a lot of pressure for these kids. And the fact that they're in school with their friends and not able to socialize and interact with them in a normal way, it's just sad. It's sad that, we're not back in the day where our kids can, run outside and play with their friends and ride their bikes. I mean, that's almost gone. And now we're putting them in school and, putting them underneath plastic sheeting and separating themselves from each other. It's really like the world has gone mad. And when you look at, coronavirus and you look at the statistics and you realize that there's a political agenda tied to it, it's even more disheartening. And, the fact that these kids are going to need a lot of therapy, I guess, opens up an opportunity for, part of their generation to become psychotherapists when this is all said and done, because these kids are going to need it.
You couldn't have said it better. And our kids are suffering and no one in leadership cares. Government Cuomo could have stepped in 100 times and gotten our schools open. Instead, the one time he decided to let Mayor Bill de Blasio stay in charge. How convenient. Meanwhile, for all the claptrap about equity in the past few years, poor kids will be hardest hit by the continued school closure, and everyone knows it. Rich kids will have tutors, learning pods, engaged parents, but the poor kids, they don't have anybody. And that is something that's not cool. They're going to be completely left behind. So we do need some equity here. And this is definitely not the kind of situation that parents set themselves up for. People need to go back to work full-time, not hybrid. Kids need to go back to school full-time, not hybrid. The world needs to open up full-time. The mask is clearly Fauci. Not sure why Texas doesn't have COVID uptick after nixing masks. Did you hear about that one, Karyn?
I did. And, it's no surprise because masking doesn't work. And, he knows this and he's known this from the beginning. And if you look at all of the things, I mean, you talk about hypocrisy. I mean, you Cuomo, de Blasio, Fauci. I mean, we're talking about just people who are completely hypocritical. And at the beginning of this whole thing, you had Fauci saying, oh, this isn't going to come here. And, oh, we have nothing to worry about. And then all of a sudden in March, there was this widespread panic. And why do you think that was? There's a political agenda at play here. This is what this has been about since the beginning, and it's a disservice to the American people. And you talk about these poor kids. These are the people that the Democrats say that they stand up for. This is their voter base. Why are they doing this? It makes absolutely no sense. But the destruction of the economy was the one thing that they could take away from Donald Trump. And they certainly succeeded with the coronavirus manufactured crisis.
Well, it's been some 5 weeks since Texas lifted its mask mandate, and there has yet to be an explosion of COVID-19 cases. So that's very telling. But Karyn, I always like to pick your brain on one more thing. And, you're in Florida and you're in the heart of it all. Miami seems to be popping. The economy there is booming. Here in New York City and the tri-state area, we're suffering. What do you really think that it's truly because of the mask approach that people are just coming to Miami where they feel like they could be normal? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's the land of opportunity. I think South Florida has become the land of opportunity, and that people like yourself from New York and New Jersey and the tri-state area are flocking here in droves, and they're doing it the same reason that people came to America, for freedom. And they see freedom here, and they see economic opportunity most of all. And the economic opportunity, the fact that we're open and the fact that we're doing business as usual down here in Florida is the reason that so many people are come here. And they're learning what I learned 21 years ago, and we're very happy to have them.
Well, I Thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for your wonderful insight. Guys, you're listening to A Moment of Xen. That's Karyn Turk. You can go check her out. She has a show called Behind the Headlines that airs on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on iHeartRadio on WJNO. Please make sure you check her out. She's not only beautiful and gorgeous, she's former Miss Florida, I think 2016, is that right?
Yeah, Miss
There you
Florida
go.
2016. Yep.
Well, I thank you for coming to the show. It was a pleasure having you, and I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you. Can't wait.
Guys, thank you so much. You're listening to A Moment of Xen. I'm Xen Sams on 710 WOR. We'll be right back.
One of the world's most recognized fashion designers is Helen Yarmack. She turned a small clothing line to an international fashion brand and is one of the few independent luxury fashion houses in the industry. Her designs for men and women are timeless and they outlast changing trends, yet they stay adaptable to your individual style. Helen's goal for her clients is to express their individual uniqueness and beauty. To learn more about her offerings, visit HelenYarmack.com or to schedule an appointment, call 212-245-0777.
Your Moment of Xen movie pick of the week is City of Lies. Executive produced by Brad Feinstein of Romulus Entertainment, directed by Brad Furman, starring Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker, based on the book Labyrinth by Randall Sullivan, and screenplay by Christian Contreras. Los Angeles Police Department Detective Russell Poole, played by Johnny Depp, has spent years trying to solve his biggest case, the murders of the notorious B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur. Still, after 2 decades, the investigation remains open. Jack Jackson, played by Forrest Whitaker, is a reporter desperate to save his reputation and career and is determined to find out why. In search of the truth, the two team up and unravel a growing web of institutional corruption and lies, revolving around the LAPD and Death Row Records' Suge Knight. This movie had me at the edge of my seat. It was so well directed, so a big shout out to director Brad Furman, who did an incredible job, and what he pulled off was amazing. Not an easy story to tell with so many timelines involved. The characters were so well developed and properly directed amidst this cold case. I truly found myself totally riveted by the relationship between the detective and the journalist. Made me feel happy that Detective Poole's legacy lived on. The director captured so many tender moments amidst all the corruption and lies. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, Christopher Wallace, better known by his stage name, the notorious B.I.G., Biggie Smalls, or simply Biggie as people call him, was an American rapper and songwriter. Rooted in the New York rap scene and gangsta rap traditions, he is widely considered one of the greatest rappers of all time. His murder remains unsolved and still a cold case. But the truth is out there, and City of Lies brought us one step closer to the truth. That was your Moment of Xen movie pick of the week, brought to you by Romulus Entertainment.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Bice Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Bice specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Bice Cucina, 212-757-2600 or online at bicecucina.com.
Welcome back to A Moment of Xen. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Joining us now, we have Brad Furman, director of the movie City of Lies, and true crime expert and podcaster Danny Sikorski, who is also an executive producer of the film. Here to talk about all the lies and corruption behind notorious B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur's murder mystery revolving around this hit film, The City of Lies. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
So Brad, I mean, this movie came about in the most conspicuous way, but it finally made its way to the big screens. And I couldn't be more honored to have you on the show and tell you that you did an amazing job. Directing this was not the easiest thing, especially because you had so many timelines involved back and forth, which was, kind of, you took the audience jumping back and forth more than just the average. But I was able to flawlessly follow in a very coherent way the timeline. Tell us what you discovered while you were filming this movie and really kind of bringing us back to, did the LAPD really cover up Biggie's murder?
I approached this movie first and foremost as a fan, someone who wanted to honor the life of Christopher Wallace, which is why I refer to him in that manner. Obviously, we know him as the Notorious B.I.G., Tupac as well, as a fan. So I really wanted to humanize these guys. And when I read Randall Sullivan's book, which was given to me by Don, the book is called Labyrinth, which the movie is based off of, I was astonished to find in extensive detail the complicit nature of the institutions within Los Angeles and the LAPD and the corruption that exists to cover up Big and their involvement in his murder. I was blown away, and it was an expose that I felt we needed and were required with this opportunity to pull back the curtain on and tell the story. And I really do have Don to thank, so I'm honored to share this with him today.
Don, thank you for joining the show. You're a really true crime expert here, and you've been following the story for quite some time, and you have extensive knowledge. The audience obviously some of them have not seen the movie, but can I just interject here and ask you why, with all of the evidence that is in front of us, with at least 4 cops being directly involved in Biggie's murder that we know were on Suge's books, death row records, how is it that nobody has been held accountable? And more importantly, how did these cops get immunity and even a severance package?
Well, the LAPD is a very powerful institution, and it's an institution that has been able to hide evidence, manage evidence as it relates to this case. And when you have the power of very smart police chiefs and very smart city attorneys within Los Angeles, the cliche is follow the money. If the evidence is to come to light, Miss Wallace would be entitled to a big civil payment. So the LAPD and the powers that be do their best to keep that evidence hidden away.
Wow. So what you guys are both saying, and we are, for those of you just tuning in, we are talking to Brad Furman and Danny Sikorski, executive producer and director of City of Lies here. And what I want to tell the audience essentially is that you are basically dropping the biggest bomb in the world with this movie, clearly stating and following the evidence into where the LAPD was directly involved. Not only were they involved, but they helped cover up this murder, and this is still a cold case. So is there a way that this case can be reopened? And not just reopened, but because it's still active, but somebody would have to come in and spearhead this investigation, because as we know, Detective Poole is no longer with us.
For this case to be opened, in my opinion, 2 things have to happen. The FBI will have to open an investigation into the LAPD. There was an FBI agent named Phil Carson who did start an investigation but was shut down. There would have to be a new FBI investigation opened, and then the U.S. attorney within Los Angeles would have to support that investigation to be able to bring charges against the LAPD and the officers that were involved. So if you understand city politics, if you understand the mechanics of Los Angeles, it really has to come from the federal side. I don't think someone within the city government of Los Angeles is going to do anything about this. And I don't believe the LAPD, at least as of now, will do anything about it. So it has to come from that federal level, which is the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Wow. So Brad, you had a great relationship with Miss Wallace, and throughout the movie, there was some incredible moments between the detective played by Johnny Depp, Detective Poole, and Valletta Wallace. Especially, there was a great scene in the diner where they were holding hands, and she was very quiet and serene, and you captured that so beautifully. What is, and you speak to her often, what is her heart saying? Does she want this to really, does she want to make more noise about it? Is she of the mindset that let bygones be bygones, or is she very, very vocal about wanting this to not just be a cold case, but have her son's death vindicated with putting somebody behind bars here? If it's not already Suge, who clearly is, to my understanding, behind bars currently for something unrelated.
I think no parent in this lifetime should see the loss of their child, but in many instances, that's not in your control. In this instance, it's surely not in Miss Wallace's control, but in the same breath, he didn't die of natural causes. He was, he was murdered. So I think the pain of that, and again, I can't speak to that because I can be sympathetic, but not empathetic because I'm not in her shoes. But it's beyond horrible, and she's been on a journey and a mission and a fight for justice and truth, and part and parcel in building the beautiful friendship with her and Wayne Barrow, Biggie's manager, and their family. The truth of the matter is that we felt that in telling the story, we wanted to tell it, as I had mentioned earlier, hand in hand and step with them. But this is all very much in line with what Miss Wallace wants in her lifetime. She wants justice to be served, and she wants the truth to come out. And she felt that our movie and what we were attempting to do, City of Lies, represents that vessel to carry that message to the world. And in a larger way, and I know they feel this way as well, because I've spoken at great length with Wayne about it, if this type of thing and corruption could happen to Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie, it could happen to anyone. And with what's going on in the world today with Black and brown lives, and the truth of the matter is this is why the social movements are gaining tremendous traction and hopefully beginning to make an impact. The relationship that these communities in particular have with the police are immensely challenged. And this movie speaks to these things in a much larger way, because again, as I'm saying, if this could happen to the most famous icon in the world, who is a Black man, it could happen to anyone. And I think they're cognizant of that, and they don't want Biggie's death and murder and cover up and everything's happened to go in vain.
And you, at the beginning of the opening of the movie, there is a scene where it's the Rodney King scene, where you have all these, police brutality. Again, very telling to the similar times that we are living in now. So it was almost very eerie to watch this when, you filmed this. How many? 2 years? 2 years ago was this filmed?
No, even more.
Even more.
3+ years ago. And I think the plan always was, number one, I didn't think an actor could personify a Christopher or a Pac. So therefore, I wanted to use the real imagery, the real voices, have his mother in the film, back to saying humanize him. But I wanted to contextualize for an audience the backdrop of Rodney King, the history of what was going on with the LAPD, the OJ trial, Johnny Cochran, everything historically in the world, and embed us and root us into that world so we understood it. Even I, looking back during the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, looked at the movie and went, wow, we were incredibly, I don't want to say ahead of the curve because it's so sad and heartbreaking from the perspective of these things are just cyclical and going on year after year. They're happening. But we were dealing with issues in this film, yes, prior to these, social movements that have been born. And in that respect, I just followed my gut and I felt these issues were important. So I put them in the movie, not knowing what our future would hold, obviously.
Great. Thank you for that. Now I'm going to divert this question to Donnie. So Donnie, what happens now? We have a cold case. We know who was responsible for Biggie's murder. Not so sure who is responsible for Tupac, but that's a separate segment. And now that we have to look back in retrospect, a lot of people are asking, but why? Why was he murdered? Why did they want him gone?
Well, that the answer to that, I think, is not something I could probably sum up in a short radio show. There were some historical things that happened between, Sean Combs and Suge. There were things that happened between Tupac and Biggie. And these events that transpired were connected to gangsters and dirty cops within Los Angeles. It really is sad that, these two lives were taken. But I do think the bigger tragedy here is two law enforcement entities, the Los Angeles Police Department and the Las Vegas Police Department, have not been able to give justice to anyone's family. And I do believe in both Las Vegas and Los Angeles, there are specific people who know the truth. at the level of police chief, or I have,
Yes.
specific documents that state some of the people.
We're running out of time, Donnie, so I don't want to cut you off. But
Sure.
for those of you that are just tuning in to listen to A Moment of Zen, you're listening to Brad Furman and Danny Sikorski. We're talking about the movie City of Lies. If you haven't seen it, please go out and rent it. This is an incredible film. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I'd love to have you back on in a couple of months with some updates here. I thank you for giving us your incredible insight, Donnie and Brad. What an incredible movie you directed. Thank you both for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. We really appreciate it.
You're listening to A Moment of Zen. I'm your host, Xen Sams, on 710 WOR.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Romulus Entertainment and Independent Film Company in a partnership with Paramount. Two of their films, Dreamland, starring Margot Robbie and Finn Cole, tells the story of a teenager and his quest to capture a fugitive bank robber, only to discover she's far more than what she seems. And Jungle Land, about a fighter and his brother as they travel the country for one last fight, and the companion that exposes cracks in their relationship. Both Jungle Land and Dreamland are available on various platforms and streaming services.
Hi guys, I'm Sari Katz and I'm here on The Moment of Zen to talk about this week's beauty tip. I want to let you in on a little secret. Do you know what everybody's doing these days that they weren't always doing? It's Botox. So apparently the industry has grown 11% in the last year, even during the pandemic. And at this point, there are 24,000 Americans a day getting Botox. Why, you might ask? Well, Botox has a number of uses. It's not just preventative for forehead wrinkles or crow's feet. It's also used to treat hyperhidrosis or underarm sweating. It's used to thin the jawline and thin these muscles here. And it's used just about any kind of muscle that is overactive to create a more relaxed or refreshed look or target a more hyperactive sweat gland. So the Botox industry is booming, and it's not just women anymore. Now men are getting it, younger generations like the millennials are using it as prevention, and it is now the mainstream, and you'll hear it probably about any dinner that you have with friends will bring up the conversation of Botox. Why is Botox so important during the pandemic? Well, it's been used to help people feel like they're coming out of quarantine with their, hot new face or refreshed look, and they're, have this disposable income that they haven't used on vacations and restaurants that they're excited to use on themselves. And they're sick of looking at themselves in the Zoom camera and seeing these fine lines and wrinkles. So the Botox industry is booming, and if you're interested, please check us out. My name is Sari. You can find me on Instagram at skinbysari, SKINBYSARI. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you've learned some education on Botox today, and tune in more for your moment of beauty tips on The Moment.
One of the world's most recognized fashion designers is Helen Yarmack. She turned a small clothing line to an international fashion brand and is one of the few independent luxury fashion houses in the industry. Her designs for men and women are timeless, and they outlast changing trends, yet they stay adaptable to your individual style. Helen's goal for her clients is to express their individual uniqueness and beauty. To learn more about her offerings, visit HelenYarmack.com, or to schedule an appointment, call 212-245-0777.
Welcome back to the Politics of Hip Hop segment. You're listening to A Moment of Zen on 710 WOR. I'm your host, Xen Sams. This segment is brought to you by Romulus Entertainment in collaboration with the Hip Hop Union and Fly Girl Lady J. Welcome back, Fly Girl Lady J, president of Hip Hop Union herself.
How are you, Zen? And I always like to say this moment of Zen. Thank you for this, because we're taking it up. And this is just a great opportunity to really talk to different audiences and open it up. And today we have a great guest, a legendary guest, like what we need. You see this, and we're talking about health. We have Grandmaster Melle, and he is an original. He's a living legend. He's a pioneer. He is hip hop. He's the godfather of hip hop. He's everything hip hop. And Zen, again, happy that we have this moment to talk with the legend.
Welcome to the show, Mel.
Thanks for having me. How y'all doing?
Perfect.
We've been doing great. Now, you are one of the original artists to call yourself a master of ceremonies. And of course you are, because you are Grandmaster Melle. And you are accredited as the main writer of The Message, which, guys, that paved the way for tons and tons of social commentary in rap. I'm so honored that you are on our show. I think we should all just take a moment to acknowledge some great losses in the hip hop community. DMX and Black Rob have sadly passed away. So we'll take a moment to just pray that their soul is resting in peace.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. And now, from your perspective, where do you think the industry is shifting from where it originally began? Because you are one of the fathers. What have you seen transpire within the community that you feel is basically a bastardization of what the hip hop and what the true hip hop artists and the founding fathers like yourself have set up back in the late 70s, early 80s?
Well, I mean, it's very simple. I think the whole thing went away from entertainment. Now, the problem that I have with hip hop is that it's less entertaining than what it was. Because in the beginning we had nothing, so hip hop came for us, and hip hop was our something. Hip hop was, what we look forward to on a day-to-day basis. Hip hop was what took us out of the hood and brought everything about the. I don't want to use the word hood, but I want to say New York City. It brought the attention into New York City and what we was doing, because we had nothing in New York City, and that's where hip hop came from. It was a music that spoke from all the things that we didn't have, that we needed, that we wanted, and hip hop was our new something, because we had nothing.
There you go.
Nowadays hip hop is more based on, like the average guy on the street, but it's not based on entertainment, and that's the main thing that hip hop did for me and did for the culture of hip hop. It was that the fact that it was entertaining.
And your message, The Message went platinum in less than a month, and would later be the first hip hop record ever to be added to the United States National Archive of Historic Recordings, and the first hip hop record inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. And then you went on to write songs about struggling life in New York City and making it through life in general, survival, the message too. At this point, what I'm hearing you say is that they are lacking substance. This new generation, perhaps, is that because you are really good with substance and messages and really dropping your lyrics and the sounds that you did in the most unique of ways. Tell me about what's going on in the way that songs are being mixed now, from your perspective.
Well, you know what? I think as with anything, and in the creative process, people hold on to the only thing that they have. Now, I had talent, so in anything beyond my talent, I gave it away, because I knew I had the talent to go somewhere else. You have guys right now, the only thing that they have, they don't necessarily have talent. They're not great writers. They're not great entertainers. They don't have stage presence. They don't have a good image, other than they're just some guy from the street. And they hold on to the only thing that they have, that they're a guy from the street. Me, and as with all the other pioneers in hip hop, we had talent, so we put that talent in front of us, and we used it to not to distance ourselves from the street, but to go somewhere else. So we use hip hop, and hip hop went all over the world. And you got b-boys, and you got graffiti writers, and you got MCs, and you got break dancers. We got b-boys that's going to be in the 2024 Olympics as an Olympic sport. And that is the evolution of what hip hop is. Mm-hmm. What you have now is just guys are from the street, and this is what everybody's promoting, and they're holding on to the only thing they have. There are some guys from the street, and this is their life. But it's not really their life, is what they want their life to be, because you have choices, and everybody have choices. And as far as I'm concerned, they're making the wrong choice, because at the end of the day, music is supposed to take you somewhere. Today's music bring you right back where you started, and it keeps you there. The ghetto is not necessarily permanent, because it's not necessarily a real thing. It's whatever you make it to be. It could be your paradise, and it could be your hell. And what they did, they are, the ghetto as it stands right now is more of a living hell than what could have been a paradise, or what hip hop actually was. It was, it was our paradise. It was our new normal.
Wow.
So now we have to find another type of normal, because this is where we are right now in hip hop. Just
then let me ask him. So when you said "Don't push me, I'm close to the edge," what were you talking about? And are we back there again to that place when we talk about the shootings out in Minnesota and this George Floyd trial? Your song is relevant today, but what were you thinking then, and how does it apply to now?
Well, what was the beauty of "Don't Push Me Because I'm Close to the Edge"? I'm trying not to lose my head. That could be directed toward anybody. That's like that's the trials of life.
Right.
Trials and tribulations that everybody, especially for people that start from the bottom,
right.
That's what everybody goes through, and that's why the song resonated even to this day above all songs, because it spoke in something that could be seen in everybody. As far as what's going on now, it's like it's something that comes about from your own doing. Like, look, I'm 59 years old. I never shot nobody. I never stabbed nobody. I've never been to prison. Why? Because I was doing music.
There you go.
About, okay, we doing this, and we hustling, and we trying to get this bag. That's a prison of your own doing, because that's in life, that is not necessarily necessary unless you want it to be.
There are some wise words that Grandmaster Melle is speaking right now. I hope you guys are listening. I hope whoever is out there listening to the politics of hip hop, we're chopping it up right here with Flagger Lady J on the Moment of Xen with Grandmaster Melle himself, and he's speaking to the generation. I want you guys to listen so you understand that hip hop is not about rifts and rafts and at each other. It's about bringing each other together, making music, making art, uniting the streets, not dividing the streets. We don't need another Biggie cold case right now. We need people to love and come together. And I want to thank you both, because you did that effectively on the Moment of Xen. Grandmaster Melle, your words, I hope they resonate with the generation. Flagger Lady J, you are amazing for always bringing these incredible guests to us. I want to sign off by saying thank you to both of you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Jineea, love you, baby.
Love you too.
All right, peace out, guys. You're listening to A Moment of Xen. I'm your host, Xen Sams on 710 WOR. We'll be right back.
If you've missed out dining in New York City for the past year, it's time to visit the legendary Bice Cucina. Located in the heart of Midtown, Bice specializes in blending delicious Northern Italian and American cuisine with dishes such as the incredible taglione lobster, ravioli masala, ossobuco, and pappardelle al telefono, along with many other mouthwatering offerings. You deserve a great night out. Call Bice Cucina, 212-757-2600, or online at bicecucina.com.
What an amazing show that was. Thank you to all of our guests. But before I sign off, I must address tomorrow night's highly anticipated 93rd Academy Awards. It's Oscar time. The live show will be on ABC starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and will also be live streamed on the ABC app. But thanks to the pandemic restrictions, only nominees, their guests, and presenters are being permitted to attend. And after an excruciating pandemic year that nearly destroyed the movie business, History looks to be made at the Oscars, with women and people of color gaining recognition. In the winners tally, Nomadland is expected to be the leading film winner with 4 wins, including Best Picture, followed by Ma Rainey's Black Bottom with 3 wins, including Chadwick Boseman. Netflix is presumed to be the leading studio with a predicted 6 wins. The good news is that the streaming giant has a 50-50 shot in 4 additional races, which could bring them to a double-digit tally, which would be a record in the modern era. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer dominated the 1930s and 40s. Here are your Moment of Zen 93rd annual Oscar predictions. Best Motion Picture of the Year, who will win? Nomadland. Who could win? The Trial of the Chicago 7. Best Achievement in Directing, winner of the Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, and DGA Awards, Chloe Zhao has been unstoppable. Who will win? Well, of course, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. Who could win? Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round. Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role. While Anthony Hopkins won the BAFTA, Chadwick Boseman looks to have just enough to take this trophy. The actor, who died last August of cancer at 43, will follow Peter Finch in The Network, the only previous posthumous winner in this category. Who will win? Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Who could win? Anthony Hopkins for The Father. Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role. Your Oscar-pooled success will likely bank on this category. Ultimately, any of the 5 could win it. Still, even with a different winner at each televised award ceremony, the informal polling of Oscar voters suggests this could be down to Frances McDormand and Andra Day by a hair. McDormand, the BAFTA winner, could emerge victorious, becoming the only 3-time lead actress winner and just 1 trophy behind Katharine Hepburn's record. Who will win? Frances McDormand for Nomadland. Who could win? Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Well, that's a wrap, my friends. Thank you for being loyal listeners. Many of you have already texted me for collaborations, and I love it. Keep these texts coming. Text feature me or collaboration to 917-575-2321. For those of you who are listening, you want to see me? You can watch the full show on 710WOR.com. Remember to tune back in next Saturday at 7 p.m. I have an amazing and exciting lineup of guests waiting for you. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It has been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Romulus Entertainment, BJ Cucina, and Helen Yarmack International. Till next week, and remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.